Well, hello there. Welcome to the Cosmic Cannibal podcast. I'm your host, Cosmic Cannibal, and this is the podcast about all things astrology, from zodiac signs and planets to transits and horoscopes. And have I got your horoscope for the transits this week, July 8th, 2024. I don't know why I said that as though it's like a brand new year. It's been 2024 for 7 months. But anyway, as you move away from last Friday's fertile and, nurturing new moon, this week's astrology cranks up the temps and the passion. What can you expect? I don't know, just a value shift, a potential power struggle, a few excitable conversations about the future, and maybe a first quarter moon. Nothing major, nothing big. The highlight of this week, as in, the transit everyone will be talking about, is Venus in Leo. The planet of love, money, and art struts into the fierce, attention-grabbing, hot and heady fire sign, beckoning you to be bolder in your self-expression and more demanding with your desires. It's not a tall order, right? But before we get into all that, let's talk about the actual astrology. If you have been a subscriber to Substack for some time, then you know that, hey, this week's astrology is actually looking a little different, because normally I don't have a podcast for the week's astrology. But I'm trying to shake things up, trying to see if maybe I can give you these weekly forecasts that you have something to listen to and return to. Because honestly, who wants to go back to reading something midway through the week? Nobody does. You'd rather just listen to me, right? Anyway, what's the astrology of this week? Okay, so July 8th, Mercury sextile Jupiter, Venus sextile Uranus. July 9th, Mercury trines the North Node. July 10th, Lilith, the dark feminine, trines retrograde Pluto. July 11th, Sun trines Saturn retrograde. Venus trines Neptune retrograde. Venus enters Leo. July 12th, Venus opposes retrograde Pluto. Jupiter sextiles the North Node. And then July 14th, we have the first quarter moon in Libra. Now, in the transcript for this podcast, I have all of these astrological dates laid out for you. I also have the degrees of these transits, because I realize, in a rather stupid way, I haven't done this very much before. And it's mostly because, as soon as I see too many numbers, my dyslexic brain just blacks out. And that's not the stupid part. The stupid part is that when I show you these astrological transits without those degrees, it doesn't allow you to determine whether or not any, some, or, even all of the astrology impacts planets in your chart, impacts placements in your chart. Of course, if you'd rather me do this for you, you can check out my 2024 birth chart rating to get in-depth insights into how this week and all the other weeks of this year are affecting you. But anyway, it literally feels like everything is happening on July 8th and July 11th. So July 8th is Monday, so it's big sort of splash into the week. We have Mercury sextiling Jupiter, and that could facilitate a meaningful chat, maybe even a writing or publishing opportunity. It might just be a day for putting something out there, announcing something. It might be a day for you to have a really positive, fun, lighthearted conversation with a friend, and then you just get this idea for a future project, and you're like, I gotta start that. So that's a really good way to start your Monday, especially as we move away from that new moon. New moons can make us really tired because, there's no light in the sky. So it's all we want to do is sleep. This is a very energizing transit, Mercury sextile Jupiter. There's also an opportunity on July 8th to free up your relationships, or, I don't know, maybe your relationship to money, thanks to that Venus Uranus sextile. Something to do with security is probably going to come up. There might be this like, hey, let's do something new type of thing with your partner. You and your partner might go to a new restaurant. Like, babe, we always go to KFC. Let's go to Chili's for once. And then lo and behold, you go to Chili's and maybe get some chimichangas. I don't think they have that at Chili's. Anyway, relationships, money, values, beauty, art, in all actuality, and TBH, these are all hot topics for the week. And it's because, as I mentioned before, Venus, the planet that rules over all of these things, all of that love, relationship, finance, and art noise, is making a lot of moves. So we have that initial, Venus sextile Uranus on Monday, and that is happening at 26 degrees Cancer and Taurus. So if you have, placements close to that degree, you're going to be feeling that transit. But by July 11th, Venus in Cancer and Neptune retrograde in Pisces align for this beautifully brief moment of dreaminess, of romance. It's a highly creative, highly idealistic, highly romantic, and compassionate day. So if you want to like collage your feelings, write a lovely poem to your beloved that's like, I just love all these things about you, it's that day. Because, Cancer, Pisces, these are signs that are all about feeling. So it's a day to really like get into your feelings and just express them in a loving, doting way. But not too long after that, Venus then enters Leo. And it kind of feels like a reclamation, a reclaiming moment for every Leo sun, every Leo rising, every person who has Venus in Leo. And really, it's a reclamation for the Leo part of your chart. Because last year, around this time, we had Venus retrograde in Leo. And it was not fun at all. I mean, Barbie came out, but it was still like for us Leo risings, it was just like, ah! And it's really lame because it's like Venus in Leo is all about having fun, and it's all about connecting through passion, connecting through pleasure, getting a little spicy, a little flirty, well, very flirty, but like, saucy. Of course, given the way that we live in the world that we live in, there's always a caveat to these transits, especially for us fixed signs. I'm a fixed sign rising, by the way. So there's a caveat to this year's Venus in Leo because apparently the planets really like to fuck with fixed signs. So as soon as Venus moves into Leo, it opposes Pluto retrograde in Aquarius. If you're unfamiliar, Pluto is the planet of shadows, of catharsis, of drama, of death, of destruction. Pluto's also the planet of like seduction, mysterious magnetism, tantalizing, titillation, a whole lot of other sort of taboo and weird, uncomfortable things like envy, possession, power, will. So what does this mean? Basically, it means that your relationships, your finances, maybe even your creativity, they're taking a deep dive into the Shadowlands, right? So things might get a little dramatic. They might get a little emo, certainly. They might get heavily doused in waves of blame, shame, passion, resentment, or some sort of power struggle. But it's only going to last like a day or two, really. In a way, it might kind of feel a bit like last summer's Venus retrograde, because that was when the love planet pulled an Inanna and descended into darkness, which you can read more about that little thing, Venus's connection to the descent of Inanna, the Sumerian myth, in my article on Substack, which I'll link in the whatever. But Venus opposite Pluto retrograde. It's a momentary descent into darkness because you're being pulled into the shadows of maybe partnerships, money habits, the things that you've ignored or overlooked, the power, the imbalance of power, Supreme Court. But the purpose of this plunge is transformation. So you want to think about how, in a very Plutonian way, if Pluto is the planet of catharsis, drama, death, destruction, but also regeneration and transformation through composting these sort of, gnarly, uncomfortable, untalked about issues. How can you compost the injustice? How can you slough away the slights? How can you get really honest and deep into or about where and how maybe you've given your power away or taken away someone else's power? Supreme Court. Oh gosh, sorry, I seem to have a cold. The process of this, it's likely to be intense, frustrating, seemingly destructive because, Pluto destroys before it rebuilds. The good news, it shouldn't last more than a couple of days. The not so good news, or at least the sort of crux of the matter, is that this opposition involves two very proud, very independent zodiac signs who don't like to admit they're wrong if they can help it. But that's where the power of this opposition comes in, because it's actually calling for balance. It's calling your attention to the imbalances of power or wealth in your relationships, and it's urging you to not get stuck in those darker feelings, the shame, the rage, the envy, the possessiveness, the whatever that comes up, so that you can actually deal with it and actually be like, I don't want our relationship to be like this, or I don't want to feel this way about my partner. I need to, facilitate our connection. I need to, get over these things. Now, if you want to avoid confrontation on this day, hey, that's fine, but it's not going to solve any problems that come up. And neither will stonewalling your partner, your friend, or boss. So if you lean into the Leo energy of this opposition and you throw your ass up in the air because you feel affronted, or you lean into the Aquarius energy and you completely shut down because the other person is acting irrationally, consider what would happen if instead you put your pride aside and just said, I'm sorry. Because that's the imbalance that needs to be fixed, right? It's the fact that not everybody is doing something wrong. We can be at fault a lot of the time. And these two planets or these two signs don't often like to think that way. Like if you are a Leo, or you are a Leo rising, or you have a lot of planets in Leo, I would say, because you're the more courageous, and that's not an insult to any Aquarians out there, but you're gonna be probably the first one to admit you're wrong and apologize. I know, it's like blasphemy to think such a thing, especially when you're never wrong, but it's because once the initial shock of being disrespected has worn off and your temper over being affronted has kind of cooled, you'll realize that you love, that you value harmony, you value connection and togetherness more than you value being right, more than you value being in control, more than you value being, the person in power. Maybe that's just my advice. I don't know. That we have Lilith in Libra trining Pluto just a couple days before this opposition. I feel like that's really important because Lilith is the asteroid of personal power and conflict resolution. It just moved into Libra, the Venus-ruled zodiac sign of partnerships, mediation, and collaboration. And here in the sign, this, asteroid of power and conflict resolution is having us think about our personal power, our conflict resolutions, how we deal with that stuff in our day-to-day lives, in our relationships. Do we mediate? Do we collaborate too much? There's such a thing as being like, God, I give so much to this person and they're just an asshole to me all the time. As much as there's truth to saying this person doesn't give me anything and I don't give them anything either, and so we're both kind of just being assholes. Who's the asshole in the situation? That's what we got to figure out this week. The first quarter moon in Libra, which wraps up this week So July 14th, we have the first quarter moon in Libra. It also brings our attention to balance. But I think it's also bringing our attention to, again, imbalance, the tipping of scales in one direction or other. Supreme Court. Oh gosh, sorry. I have a it's like a diaphragm issue, you know, or some sort of lung Tourette's. I don't know. It's like I cough something for no reason. So anyway, it's a bit of a shadowy week for Venus, but it's nothing you can't handle. It's nothing that's going to ruin your life. It's going to be, maybe it'll be tense a couple of days. If you are a Leo or an Aquarius, sun or rising near 0 or 1 degrees, then the opposition is going to be a lot more personal for you, or you have fire sign, air sign, fixed sign placements near 0 or 1 degrees. It's going to be something to pay attention to. Is it going to ruin your life? Absolutely not, because that's not what astrology is here to do. It's here to work with you. It's here to call things to your attention so that you can, you know, become stronger, braver, more empowered, and fiercely flirtatious, because that's what Venus in Leo is all about. So next week, Mars takes center stage. The planet of action, energy, assertiveness, and war meets up with Uranus for a rare, maybe, dare I say, explosive conjunction in Taurus. Then it connects with Neptune retrograde for, you know, another day of like sensual dream weaving and sort of like, hey, let's just gaze at the clouds and see what shapes we can find. And then the red planet enters Gemini and a whole lot of action and talk follows. So be sure to keep your eye on your inbox for an exciting announcement from yours truly. Plus, your Venus in Leo horoscope drops this week. I hope you have a wonderful second week of July. If you want to dive further into how any of this astrology or any of the upcoming astrology of this year impacts you, head on over to my website, cosmiccannibal.com. You can book 2024 chart reading with yours truly. It's one of my most popular readings. And it is official that my Kickstarter for my novel, Jupiter Returns, is coming. So be on the lookout for that, because it is going to be a splash. Goodbye for now.